to this edition of Optimal Talks. In this series of frank conversations, I will chat to a diverse range of security specialists and industry influencers to explore their opinions and ideas, picking apart some of the key issues we all face today. I hope you enjoy the next 30 minutes. If you do, leave us your thoughts and comments and spread the word. Thanks. Good morning, afternoon to everybody. My name is Rick Mountfield. This is Optimal Talks, and today I'm delighted to be joined by my good friend Steve Bales from Zaun Fencing. Steve, how are you this morning?
I'm great, thanks, Rick. And yeah, it's a sunny day in the UK.
Yes, it is indeed. We're recording this remotely. It has just turned 12 o'clock, hence my morning afternoon. But you might be watching this in a different part of the world. So we are grateful for you joining us. This series is with security professionals from all different aspects of our diverse industry, but not specifically about security. And today I'm really keen to talk about the success I've witnessed in Zaun's journey towards sustainable manufacturing. It is a hot topic, you know, the government's targets for 2050 we're going to look at. But as a manufacturer, I think that we can all learn a lot from Zaun's journey. So, Steve, I know you're famous for the "it's not just a fence" piece, but tell us about why we as an industry need to be talking more about renewable energy and a little bit about what you guys have been doing.
Okay, so first and foremost, I'm not an expert in this subject, but and as you say, I've constantly got the passion for it's not just a fence. But when I started to look at Zaun and what they've done, since joining them, it's been quite a remarkable journey. And the journey of what came to me was how much investment Zaun have made into the renewable energy and how that's grown and gone through the business entirely. And I think to answer your question, we all have to do our bit, and this is common, and we need to do our bit. And I believe you have to start on this journey, and we're trying to look at being early adopters, especially in our industry and the manufacturing, where this is where we generate a lot of we need a lot of renewable energy to manufacture. And if we can replace that from the normal energy, it has a lot of positives about it. So I just want to sort of how can I put it? I just want to sort of like bring it to people's attention and say, look, it can be done. We have to start this journey. We're not going to solve everything straight away, but let's start and make a difference and do some actions to go along that way. And there's certain things that challenges ahead of us all, and I just want to express that. Really, that's it.
I guess I'd be interested. I'm sure everybody's interested to know where this all started, but it really comes down to your ESG policy. So, I mean, talk us a little bit as an employee of Zaun, how you perceive the environmental and social responsibility aspects of trying to become, carbon net zero, and how that is filtered down to the lowest levels. The guy that is stacking the fences at the end of the process, right through to the managing director and board level. I mean, how do you feel that as an employee?
So Alistair, as the owner of the business, he's very much a driver of this and investing that. So it's coming from the top. Good. The investments coming from the top. The policies are there, and also his outlook on life to the energy and how we can relate to manufacturing and our greener policy. And we've done that. So it affects us in many ways. So like our sales vehicles are all electric. Our forklift trucks are all electric. We've actually installed visitors points so that our employees, or certainly our visitors, so Rick, if you came to our business with an electric car, you're doing business with us, and you can plug in also while you're here to do business to encourage that. So it's helping all our employees, even down to the way that we're trying to we offer our employees, if they want to sort of own cars themselves that are electric, which are quite, it's quite an outgoing, where you can use the benefits of the salary sacrifice schemes, and there's a lot of companies out there that are starting to offer that, the electric companies and the car companies, and so we as a business can put that forward to our employees as well. So hopefully, and what it's doing is engaging in the thought process right from the guy loading the mesh on in the factory floor, making the welded mesh that we do on the mesh machines or the laser cutters. They have that awareness in some way that we're running off solar, we've got the electric vehicles, we've got the electric forklifts. So that starts to get people thinking. It did me when I
Yeah.
joined. I got electric car for the first time, and it
Yeah.
was like, oh, what do I do? How does this work?
Uh-huh.
And I've actually found it it's a really enjoyable experience, but some people are still very skeptical. And that's why I'm sort of saying, let's not be too frightened of it. Let's look at it. Simple as that.
No, I mean, I've been to the Zaun factory about 2017, 2018. I think I came up to watch the process of,
Mm.
the manufacturing process for an armor weave fence. And I was always struck by it makes common sense now that I've seen it, but the recycling of metal waste was always, I mean, the factory was always really organized. That was one thing that struck me, and everything was in its place, and it was very orderly. And you had this recycling program that now I guess was that kind of part of the initiator, because you recycle, you presumably still, I don't know if it's improved or increased, but you recycle all of the waste material, right?
Yeah. So all the recycling side, all the metal that goes is some way recycled. We got 100% recycling, and we also have like 97% is not going into landfill. So these are sort of ways you strive to make things better, which is a start. And also with the investment in the renewable energy, reducing your carbon as much as you can.
Yeah.
And then you start looking a bit deeper into other areas that are going to come. So, putting the lights on or off, on how we move paper around, etc., and things like that, and getting more involved in that area. And that's ahead of us more and more. So yeah,
Are you
it's
following?
important.
Do you follow sort of international standards in environmental policy? The was it
Yeah. So
14064 and
there's a couple of standards I've learned, and this is why I say I've learned, because it's
yeah.
new. So for those that don't know, I've found out that you have a PAS 2060,
Hmm.
which is the carbon neutral side of the standard, so working towards that standard. And there's lots of ways you can calculate how you can reduce carbon footprint through a calculation, because it's about how we produce product, then it's how we transport product, where our supply chain get this material and bring it in. So all those things have to be calculated into your carbon footprint. And then that highlights of, you start asking questions along that supply chain or your own manufacturing of what that reduction you can do, and you can start calculating and measuring that. So I would say that we're moving towards that journey, and that's where we've all got to go in some way to meet the UK carbon network targets. So we got,
Yeah.
and in the West Midlands, they also have an even more stringent target, where they're looking at, in the West Midlands, they're committed to sort of 2041 as opposed to 2050, which is a real challenge. And
Yeah.
then you've got the other standard, which is the ISO
Yeah.
14064, which is a more of an environmental standard. So although they're running side by side, they're two standards as such. And what today is about, I want to try and avoid there's another term I've learned, it's called greenwashing, is where you're sort of like saying a lot but not doing a lot,
Yeah.
and you're promoting that you're doing all this stuff. So you have to take action, and I feel that we're on this early journey of taking that action with what we've done in the factory, the commitment with the cars, etc., as I explained before.
I think it's a bold move to go jump both feet into as an early adopter into something that I think we all recognize is going to become more of a an enforced activity. So why not get ahead of the curve and before you're forced to do it, and then it's all, you know, a huge chore to start to learn. But it actually helps hearing from somebody that can tell us where, you know, which paths, which ISO standards we should get the guidance from, because, you know, I think the biggest blocker to going down this route is people don't know where to start.
Mm.
And, you know, they probably want to contribute, as long as it's not going to cost the business more money. Because, you know, with the best will in the world, right, and being a pragmatist, if going green is going to cut your bottom line, then where's the impetus to do that? It needs to be balanced properly, you know. So before I come on to, you know, the things that you've added on, I think that removing that blocker to adoption is important. So knowing where to go to get the advice, and, you know, there's paths and standards there available to you, and we'll list them again at the end. But you're, you know, the Zaun has gone now to, I think you told me in the past, 65% of renewable energy from solar, yeah, right? So you tell us what you've done with solar.
So what we've invested in is we've put in about over 500 solar array panels on the roof of our factory. And what that's around about, at its peak time, you're ranging around about 330 kilowatts. And I'm not an expert in this, but all I know is it's enough to run our factory and all the things we've said in our manufacturing, and we're getting around about 65% of our renewables through that. So in the summer months, when the sun eventually comes out,
yeah,
we're at our peak and it's heyday, and we get instant, you know, savings from that. Obviously the challenge is the winter because of the weather, so we don't quite get the benefits, and we have to pick up other areas on that, which we're all going to have to work to that. So it's not just us. So that gives us great, you know, sort of satisfaction that we're using renewable energy to that sort of levels. Plus the fact that we've heard in the news recently with the Russia situation of security and resilience on energy supply. The demand and peak is going to go up more and more from, you know, sort of the grid. So it's protecting also that, not that it's happened totally yet by any means, but there was talk in the news about, you know, certain times when the power would go off maybe. And these are serious things, although we might think, oh yes, but they are serious things. If they're saying it, there must be an element to it. So in a way, what the although you don't think about it at the time, and this has all been brought upon us out of our control, it does add to the fact that you are a little bit more in control of your own energy supply. So you get that security resilience a little bit. And also the fact that you're using 65%, let's say at peak or whatever, of electricity that's come from the sun.
Yeah,
it's a great, it's a no-brainer. It's a great thing.
Yeah.
Especially it's just that investment really to
especially when your forklift trucks, you know, and your machinery is battery powered and recharged through your own resources. Yeah, that's so the weather is a positive in the summer and a negative in the winter. You know, we have to live with that in our country. What other sort of positives, negatives have you sort of come across from the investment?
Well, obviously you've got to, it's like, I mean, the investment is, you know, something in what we did is probably something in the region of nearly 300,000 to get that sort of done. So you've got that initial upfront cost. So you have to spread that over a period of time to return on investment.
Yeah, the net present value of that investment.
Which is what you would do if you was to invest in any machinery or any capital in your business.
Yep.
So you make that choice and say, right, I'm going to invest. And this is probably where Alistair, and I can't speak directly for Alistair today, but he made that investment to do that. He could have bought another machine, he could have bought this, that, and the other, but we invested in that greener way and the cars and the forklifts, etc. So he had a plan, obviously, for that, and saw that benefit of the greener energy, the renewable energy, and also the positives of security resilience. Hopefully, there will be some cost returns on it that makes us efficient, and it can help us in the global markets. So there is a return on that at some point, and it's quite quick.
Kind of that sort of, it's a question I was curious about, is how your customers, and I mean these are the people you deal with, but
Yeah.
how do the customers view the fact that you've gone down this route? But then you said something to me that, which I need to ask you about, which is about, you know, resilience of your manufacturing process. That's got to be a value add, I would imagine, right? So how, first of all, the question is, how have you found the reception from your customers? Do they care that you're on your journey to carbon net zero, and or are they more reassured that you've got resilience in your supply chain?
Well, that's a good question, because the one thing I'm learning as well is, and I've learned this in the past as well, procurement and contractors, when they're procuring projects, this question about the standard and this question is being driven by industry in general.
Mm-hmm.
And it's in the procurement process. So it's coming and it's already there. So from our customers' point of view, and this is the reason why, you know, we're talking today, and I want to do more within the business or industry to talk about this, and we're all waking up to this, because it is coming in our supply chain, and it's coming within our tender process, who we align with, our
Right.
supply chain. So it grows into a bigger picture, and obviously when you start getting into it, it opens up a lot of avenues. Now, I think it's important that we inform our customers what we're doing, because it helps them. And it helps them not only think about what they're doing, but they want to align, I believe, with people that can help them. And in the process now, if it's coming in their tender process, it becomes a part of their day-to-day business of winning or losing sales or
Right.
projects.
Yeah.
So it has a bigger impact, although it don't seem a lot. And also, I think everybody wants to do their bit in some way.
Yeah.
You know, we're not going to change it overnight, and we can only do so much, but we can do more. And let's start the journey.
Yeah.
And I feel that if we all do that within talking within our supply chain, because we're all going to have different challenges and help each other, we're on a better road, I believe.
Yeah. Now you're obviously in this sort of early stages of your journey as a company, and I, you know, I absolutely get, and I've seen it in tenders myself around, you know, sustainability policy and ESG policy, and do you
Mm.
subscribe to this? Are you abiding by this? So that's fine. They're forcing that on you for a tender. What kind of impact and influence can you have on your steel suppliers, and in your supply chain up? Are you trying to influence
I think
down the way?
I think we've always got to put that pressure on, or at least influence it in and ask the questions, and that's becoming
Encourage, you
more and more.
think?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
it's very difficult to, you know, to tell people how to run their business and what they should be doing, but we can only promote about what adoption and what we hope to encourage, really,
Yeah.
as you say. But yeah, it's a highlight. It's a conversation. You know, I'm coming towards, you know, the good days and the end days of my career, maybe, but I've learned along the way with experience how things adopt themselves and then they become reality. And I think we've started this journey quite a while ago, I guess, in terms of not just Zaun, but as an environmental and climate. We're seeing now the evidence more and more, and I think we're all starting to think, well, actually, the science is now proving that we have to do something.
Yeah.
So, and I think it's the same process with business. We're growing and growing and growing on this, and that question becomes part of a business meeting
Hmm.
to a
Yeah.
degree.
Yeah.
And it's like security. We talk about security as part of our business. You know, coming back to security, you know, there's more
Yeah.
conversations about security governance. You know,
Yeah.
is there someone on the board of director that looks at security governance in our
Yeah. No,
business?
absolutely.
So, you know, the sustainability, you know, people are being employed to look at sustainability.
Yeah.
So therefore, this becomes part of our natural day to day, and we're on this journey, and I think it's growing very quickly, but we still got to hop on and all do our bit.
And I
It's
think that comes back to the first point was, you know, this has to be driven from the top. It has to be in the ESG and corporate governance
yes,
policies that say this is what you will do, employee. You know, you will reduce your carbon footprint as much as you can. We're going to give you electric forklifts to do that. We're going to give you charging points where you can sustainably drive an electric car should you choose to, and all of the other salary sacrifice things that people do. That has to be driven from the top down. And I guess, climate change is an emotive topic.
Yeah.
My personal
Well,
feeling is it's definitely a real thing, but 101% improvements is better than nothing.
I've just become a granddad, right?
Right.
It's the most wonderful experience I've ever
Yeah.
had. And I look at him and I look at his future. And
Yeah.
I know it sounds very cheesy and corny, people watching, but I can only
No.
express how I feel, right?
No, I'm with you.
And I want him to have the best future he can. And I hope that what we do now affects him later on and his children, because we can see that in our own journeys. We can all probably talk about, oh, when I was that age, this, that, and the other, and it just follows suits in natural life. But and I'm growing more and more into the thinking of this, which I can only speak from a normal person, an average person, that if it's affecting me like this, then it is starting to happen.
Yeah. No, thank you for that, because that I think really drives it home. And when you do have family and you can
Mm.
rationalize why, personally to me, why do I want to contribute? Because your grandson is, a little person that you want to see have the same quality of life that you had. I think
Well,
that really rams it home. Yeah.
yeah, and what we do now affects him, and
Yeah.
he can't control that himself now because he's very
No,
tiny and learning.
no.
But I can.
I do feel that we have to leave it in some sort of good state so that generation will fix, our generation's mistakes. But tell us, you've been researching down the sort of the carbon net zero 2050 policy. What do you think the challenges are going to be for our industry, the security, specifically, the security manufacturing industry?
Um, I think certainly from the manufacturer's point of view, because that's a high level waste environment and etc. So we have to look very seriously at that, and also where we get our materials from, because obviously you can go to site, how you go to site and do a risk management, or you
Hmm.
talk to your clientels, your journey there, how you got there, etc. That's part of the carbon footprint of the process when we start our risk assessment, operational requirement, right the way through to design, and
Yeah.
we manufacture it. So that if you took the whole security, sort of product or risk management process to a start of a problem to mitigating the problem, there is a whole area of sectors there that will create carbon footprint capture. And probably where we are in manufacturing is a high level part of that, because we have to buy steel in,
Yeah.
whether from whatever source we get them from. It has to be produced from recycled washing machines, cars, or whatever to
Mm.
produce a steel rod. We get the steel rod from the steel mill, which they've heated up and done various processes to, and then transported it across. We then convert it into a product, which could be a welded mesh product with a post and a gate, with various galvanizing and powder coating processes to protect
Yeah.
it from the environment. And we have to do all that and then send it to a site. So there's our transport, and then it has to be installed. So you've got concrete, you've got digging
Yeah.
out, etc. And then eventually we have someone who takes it over as a customer and maintains it. So that whole lifespan of just that process is massive.
When you say it
And
like that, it really is.
it's massive.
Yeah.
And then we've got till 2050 to reduce that down to some sort of net zero. It's a big challenge. But
Wow.
that's what I'm saying. It's like everything. If when you have a big problem, I always say when you have a big problem, you start in small chunks
Yeah.
and you break it down and do your bit within that small chunks.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the process and the industry within that process, whether it's you, Rick, doing a risk assessment, or it's me doing the manufacturing, or somebody doing an installation, if we're all doing our bit, hopefully we can bring that closer and closer. It's a
Yeah.
massive challenge. I get it, but hey,
I love
let's
that.
just highlight it.
Everything you've said, we can only do what we can do right now.
Yeah.
And we shouldn't try and eat the elephant whole. You have to break it down. But I think
I
I follow programs where you see scientists that are working out how to bury carbon dioxide into concrete in the manufacturing process so they can store it away and lock it in. And I guess what we have to have faith in, we do what we do. And whether we have electric cars to get to, so I can get to my site security survey to create and develop the operational requirement that then brings the manufacturing. They come in electric cars, that'll reduce, and electric trucks, and they'll use power tools that are charged by solar panels. The concrete will have been manufactured with,
Yep.
sucking carbon dioxide into it. All of those things. It's a whole team effort. We can't do it all by ourselves,
No.
but we can do what we can do, and that I think is a really. I love that summary, as in it fills me with a little bit of hope that it's not too big of a deal. And even if it is 2050, they say, reach for the stars, hit the moon. And even if we don't get to, carbon net zero by 2050, we might be 5% off it or whatever. That's still better than where we're at now.
It's a target. It's
Right.
a target you got to try to achieve. Sometimes there's a saying I use is seek for perfection, but you may never get perfection. But if you've got that drive towards that perfection,
Yeah.
you're going to be a lot further down the line than when you were.
And that's business. We've all heard that kind of analogy in business before. But congratulations to Zaun for what you're doing right now. I think it hopefully will trigger some inspiration in other manufacturing industries and across industries. We're looking at what we do. Our carbon footprint is pretty small anyway, but we're always looking at what can be done. And I think if everybody just does that, the the thing is, seek the help. So tell us, Steve, give us your email if you don't mind.
Yep.
So if people want to quiz whether it's with you or through Alistair and the what the business did and how it came to its decisions, how would they reach you?
Okay, so you can email me on steve.bailes, BAILES, at Zaun, ZAUN.co.uk.
There it is. Okay.
And we're just trying to, like I say, just have an open conversation and raise awareness.
And let me just recap, because I said I would. PAS 2060.
So you got PAS 2060 and
Yeah.
ISO 14064.
Okay, there's a good place to start. Okay. No, Steve, it's always a pleasure talking to you. I've personally taken a lot out of this. I look forward to, and if you're still listening to this now, we will be running a CPD day up between Optimal Risk Group and Zaun around the security rated fencing, manufacturing and attack testing of those up in Wolverhampton in the fourth quarter of this year. Keep an eye open for that. We'll be advertising those. You'll be able to come along to that and observe for free. We're going to, put it out as a CPD day. We did it once before. It was a great success, Steve, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And we'd love to do it again.
We like to sort of show people how things are made. Yeah,
right.
That's great.
And it is the biggest knitting machine in the world, and it is phenomenal to see.
And it's not just a fence.
On that point, I'm going to say goodbye.
Yeah.
And I'll catch you soon. Thanks everybody for joining us.